And joining us on the line right now is our good friend KT McFarland, Fox News national security analyst and good friend of this program. Good morning to you, KT.
Good morning.
All right, so early this morning, about the time that we came on the air, the Iranians released 10 sailors that had been held there after their patrol boats. These are small little 38-foot patrol boats. Apparently crossed into Iranian waters, according to the Iranians. They were detained after they, we are told, apologized to the Revolutionary Guard for having encroached upon Iranian waters. They were taken back out to international waters and released. Your thoughts on this?
Well, if they hadn't been released, I think we'd be having a very different conversation nationally today. It's yet another example of the Iranians just wanting to poke their finger in the eye of the United States. They got what they wanted out of the nuclear deal. They're not stopping their nuclear program, and their relationship with North Korea is such that they're paying for the program that North Korea is the testing grounds of. We're about to give Iran an awful lot more money to increase that nuclear program and support to terrorists, among other things. And so I think that at this point, they didn't want to endanger that, but at the same time, they wanted to go right up to the edge of showing that there's going to be no difference in our relationship. They remain a hostile power to the United States. The Iranian media was talking about the American sailors as being prisoners and not hostages, but prisoners, and so their rhetoric internally is ramped up. So, I just think the Iran deal was a terrible mistake. I think we'll be living with the consequences of it forever. And anybody who thought deluded themselves into thinking that we were going to have a better relationship with Iran, or that Iran would somehow see the light and become a different kind of country. I think we're seeing more and more evidence that that's not the case. And let's not forget about the hostages Iran continues to hold, including an American journalist.
Can I just ask you, the timing of this seems very strange. I mean,
why did they take him?
Just before the President's State of the Union address, it would be an embarrassment to the President. And how in the world is it that a couple of patrol boats get lost in that part of the world?
Well, I don't think they got lost as much as supposedly 2 patrol boats failed. I think we have to wait till we hear from the sailors themselves. What did go wrong? Were they lured in? What other things were happening at the same time? But I agree with you. It's a very strange coincidence that 2 American vessels had engine trouble or failed or were somehow wandered into international waters moments before the President was to give a State of the Union address. The primary foreign policy victory he would claim in that address would be the Iran nuclear deal.
Well, and the U.S. is poised, possibly, although there will be quite a bit of debate, KT McFarland, about unfreezing about $100 billion in Iranian assets. Now, there were major high-level diplomatic conversations happening from the moment this event occurred. We know that Secretary of State John Kerry was on the phone with his new friends in Iran. Do we think maybe that came up in the conversation, the $100 million in assets?
No, I'm sure it probably didn't. I'm sure that the Secretary of State and the President, they're not going to change their mind. In their mind, they've got a terrific nuclear deal with Iran, and there's really very little Iran is going to do that's going to change their minds. I mean, the way I think of it is like high school, right? Iran realized that the United States was available, and the United States became Iran's one-night stand, and Iran is now in the locker room bragging about it. Mm. And we're still thinking, our leadership is still thinking, oh, I know they'd really love me.
Yeah. KT, if I can get you to turn a little bit to the President's speech last night. He did touch on international terrorism and about Congress's role, I suppose, in aiding in that fight. Here's one passage.
If this Congress is serious about winning this war and wants to send a message to our troops and the world, authorize the use of military force against ISIL. Take a vote.
Is that a legitimate issue, KT McFarland, or is he just
it's a Washington kind of issue, right? I mean, he knows that they're not going to do it, and so then he has an excuse for not pursuing it. Look, to me, I've helped write State of the Union addresses and addresses where presidents address the body of both houses of Congress, and I've got to say, what a missed opportunity. I mean, I could hardly bear to hear it and listen to it because it was just so tedious and self-serving and scolding. But the president, to me, it was emblematic of his entire presidency. What a wasted opportunity. He came into office saying, I'm going to heal the divisions. I'm not the red president, I'm the red, white, and blue president. And the tone he took last night, I went back and looked at the speech he gave to the Democratic Convention, in 2004, where he really did look like the healer, the man who was going to be a post-racial president, a post-racial leader, and he was going to heal the divisions that were riveting the country at the time. And if you look, here we are, almost a decade later, and he's done more and more to divide the country, not to unite it. So not only was the speech a missed opportunity, but his entire presidency was a missed opportunity. I mean, when he basically says Al-Qaeda, Islamic Jihad, well, he doesn't call them those words, of course, but Al-Qaeda and ISIS do not present an existential threat to this country, but at the same time implying that the Republicans do. I just think that the candidate of hope and change, the president of hope and change, he stood up there, and I think the majority of Americans were just hoping for change.
It's always a great applause line when the president talks about the men and women of the military and how we have the strongest military in the world. And he went on to say that no country would dare challenge us. Well, Russia challenges us almost every day, it seems. They're pushing us around all over the planet. The Chinese don't seem to have much respect for us right now. And we have, situations where international terrorists, go and kill people in Benghazi and challenge us on a daily basis. Do we have the strongest military in the world, and is he right to continue to brag about that, given those developments around the world?
Well, I think all you got to do is look at the faces of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They look like they were in a hostage video.
Yeah. That was an amazing screenshot. It really was.
It was an amazing screenshot. And then when the president said, look, we're still so powerful, if people have a problem, they don't call Moscow, they don't call Beijing. Wait a minute, have you been looking at the headlines lately?
Yeah.
The Sunni Muslims in the Middle East, that's exactly who they're going to. They're all going to Moscow. They're not coming to Washington. They're, in fact, not even bothering to come to Washington in many cases, and their leadership has said as much. And as far as the Chinese, what do you think the countries of the world are all rushing to Beijing to do? They're all doing business deals with Beijing. So I think the president, again, it's the final year, it's a missed opportunity, but he's in his bubble. He thinks everything he's done is just terrific. History's going to show that he's right, where the American people are in a pre-revolutionary grab the pitchfork, run to Washington mode.
We got to leave it there. K.T. McFarland, thank you.
Thank you.